when you get that, solo space dad kicking around in the, C2 fat arming it with a bloody hold full of Laranite, and they're just expecting to be able to escape. It's like, fuck you, man. No, you don't get to escape.
So today on Answer the Call, Salty Mike had a panel of people who were discussing master modes and the upcoming speed changes to combat. And that was actually Letty there, one of the more famous pirates in the game, kind of discussing the idea of whether or not somebody who doesn't put in the time or the energy or the work to prepare to handle engagements with people who are, who put in an enormous amount of time, and by all accounts, they absolutely do. If you ever do get the chance to watch a Mongrel Squad video, I mean, it's no question why they're as good as they are. I mean, they're an excellent group. That being said, there is, a hint of, I hate to say it, but just a touch of disdain there for the average guy who plays the game. And so, this is one of my concerns about these new SEM modes, is that, they're slowing down the game so we can't escape. And so one of the first things I want to talk about tonight is, let's look at some SEM speeds that are published. And I know some of this stuff is just coming out, but hey, I just want to start with an important one right now. It was funny, they talked about these SEM speeds during the I think it was Jonathan Winters who started alluding to the fact that these SEM speeds were published, and Mike was, I even think, a little surprised by it. I'm sure he's a busy guy. But you can see right here that this particular ship, the C2 Hercules, has an SEM speed of 135. Now, if you think 135 SEM speed is going to get you out of the combat situation that you've been pulled into by the new Master Mode changes, I beg to differ. I mean, and here's one of the primary reasons why you're not going to escape combat. Now there's the Gladius. You can see its SCM speed is 280. So these light fighters, the Cartuals, the Gladiuses of the world, the Arrows of the world, their SCM speeds are going to be very, very, very high. If you think a cargo-laden C2 is going to find their way out of SCM after they've been pulled into it, you're absolutely wrong. And so this is one of the primary reasons why some of us on the industrial side don't like the changes. And quite honestly, there wasn't really a whole lot of representation on Mike's panel today for that.
A lot of the problem is that there's a mentality where people are still treating Star Citizen as a solo game, and the irony is that Master Modes is going to be a bit of a wake-up call for a lot of this community, where it's like, okay, combat's slowing down. If you end up in this scenario, you're going to have to fight your way out of it until the rest of the systems that come in place for it providing better security from the NPCs and all that sort of thing. You're going to have to, take a bit of accountability, take a bit of responsibility for your own gameplay, start using your turret gun and start using escorts.
I don't think Letty's wrong here at all. I think that he's absolutely right. I think that the game's going to shift fundamentally away from any type of a casual player just going out and expecting to go any place that's different or fun without there being somebody who's, potentially trying to... It's important to understand a couple of things here. A lot of times that, the reason Mike and I have flown around for a couple of years and we don't get pirated that often, it's because it's not easy. It's not easy to pirate people, and people are getting away. And I mean, you can actually hear that, in I think it was Cutlet who said something a little later about it.
Talking about the lowered speeds, I think everyone has to get ready for more casualties. Even more experienced, like super experienced players, should get ready for their asses to get kicked by the numbers.
And this is kind of alluding to something Letty said a little bit later in the stream, or earlier in the stream to this, but later in the stream from the first points he was making, and here it comes.
Like, there are 3 words that I've been saying to Mongrel Squad now that are going to echo throughout the rest of the community.
Oh no.
And it is might makes right. Right? It will not matter. It will not fucking matter if you're a solo space dad kicking around in a C2. Right? It's all about numbers. Like that's why, like, this whole master modes thing, like, I'm seeing a shift when it comes to combat, where groups are just going to start blobbing up, and, you know, like, we're going to get into those fleet battles that everybody wants to, but not because, you know, like, it's the cool thing to do. It's because if you want to survive the fight and you want to win, that's what you're going to have to do.
Now, CIG has been selling this thing as you're flexible. You get to make a choice. But you can hear what Letty's saying here. You're not going to have a choice. It's going to de-evolve into a Zerg. And whether or not that Zerg has any skill or not, it remains to be seen. But chances are it is just going to evolve into one big, you know, nasty Zerg of whoever has the most players is going to win. And that's too bad, because I don't know that that's what we necessarily have now when people do have the option to get away. Here's some more published SCM speeds that are frightening to me. So once again, here's the SCM speed of a Caterpillar. You know, 130, and that's it. You know, that's, you know, it's so funny because I keep, you know, one of the arguments that was, you know, anyone was making it, and you know, I am honestly just a sheep among wolves. I don't study combat in the game. I definitely want to be an acceptable pilot with disengaging. But, you know, I don't understand where the argument is being made here about you're going to be able to get away. I mean, you're not going to be able to get away, and there's beginning to publish SCM speeds that are showing that you're very unlikely to get away with this new system. And maybe that's what they want, but I'm here to tell you that I represent a part of the community that really doesn't want a whole lot to do with this. And, you know, if we don't stand up and say something, we're not going to have a voice.
That's what's really driving me mad with this game right now, is that, you know, you can't close the deal.
Well, you're definitely going to be able to close the deal in the new system. And I actually found this graphic kind of funny. You can see the Warlock here has a speed of 240. SCM speed here. Look at the cargo variant. The Titan is actually much reduced. And so, yeah, you can see it here. Like the Titan Renegade, which is the cargo variant, it's got a 205. The Avenger Warlock's got a 240. And then you have the actual Titan, which is the fighter's 260. So, you know, they're starting to publish what the numbers are going to look like. And it doesn't look good for people who just want to play some industrial-based comp, you know, who want to just kind of be space vads and fly around and be okay with it. And look, I understand there's an enormous amount of preparation that goes into piracy. I mean, clearly people do an enormous amount of, put in a lot of time and energy, and I don't know that I know what all the right solutions are. But this whole slowing down the SCM speed thing, it's really about one thing. And I just want to make sure everybody's very clear about that. It's about dragging you into combat when you don't want to be there. And the one thing a lot of us, that don't want to be there. And the one thing I want to say is, where's sensors in all this? Why can't I detect somebody at 25 or 30 kilometers away and then just kind of spool up and jump out? You know, that's a very, very... it seems to be kind of a lost narrative in any of this stuff. Why do I have to wait till people are right on top of me? What happened to this idea that there might be a sensor suite that could actually reach out any distance and give me an indicator? Why can't I put some, have some kind of a skill out where, I'm actually really, really good at pinging, distance pinging, and I can pick things up? There needs to be some kind of an offset. This next clip is Xperia, and I'll admit I don't know Xperia's content, and I apologize, Xperia, if you happen to listen to this. I'm just not as familiar with your content, but it's interesting the point you were making here, and it kind of lends towards one I was making earlier last week.
From what I understand is this thing's gonna be coming to us in a very finished state. This is Squadron 42's major gameplay. This is what it's gonna be like the Playstar Citizen, and I'm pretty sure it's coming in a relatively finished product. So yeah, I imagine you're not gonna wait for a lot of those answers.
Yes, you're seeing that, right? The Raft has a SCM speed of 134, and listen, I don't think there should be any argument that these ships that are industrial base should have a slower SCM. The fact is you're just going to be dragged into a combat situation you don't want to be in. And the whole concept of whether or not you, should have had escorts or should have had scouts or shoulda, woulda. I mean, all that's going to go away. These guys they're going to pin you down and they're going to kill you. And so here's what those people need to understand. There is going to be a shift in the game. And it's also going to be a lot of people are not going to play. There's a lot of people who don't play EVE because of the PvP and the way that it is. And there's, Star Citizen may turn in that direction and do the same thing. Drive away a large part of the casual community with this type of stuff. And here's the other thing, what Xperia was saying here is, one of the things that I talked about in the last podcast that Zell and I did, and it has to do with this, Squadron 42. If these are the types of things that are going to be coming out of Squadron, if this does come out in some kind of a polished state, if this is the stuff that's coming out of Squadron, I am really upset with the shift. I mean, there's some debate that needs to be made about whether or not it's going to come and whether or not it's going to be in any kind of a polished state. Obviously we understand here. But listen, Squadron 42 is a single-player PvE game. And they built this single-player PvE game mechanic, and they think that the combat's engaging in Squadron 42 because it's a single-player PvE game. And it seems funny to me that the best pirates and the best PvP guys, some of the best of the best in those fields, are licking their chops. Not one of those people on the panel were opposed to this. And, there's very little representation besides a lot of, upset space dads, I guess, about the fact that you're going to kill solo gameplay. Well, so there you have it. That was kind of me doing kind of a reaction video. I did take some clips from ATC today. I really did listen intently with what they had to say. And they're all excited for the fact that, casual dad is, in for a whooping. And like I said, I will say, I don't fundamentally agree with that. I don't really know what else to say. I don't think it's cool that that World War II combat mode is what is the thing that we're all being sucked into. There seems to be this very antiquated, view of things that, the Spitfire versus the Messerschmitt was the golden age of space of air, of some kind of a, combat superiority situation or whatever, and they just don't seem to be able to escape that. And it seems like they've really doubled down on that here. They just really want to go back to circle mode or whatever. And, hey, as somebody who really just wants to salvage, as somebody who wants to mine, as somebody who wants to haul some cargo, every single time I'm wasting my time fighting, I'm losing money. Okay, I'm risk averse, not because I can't take the time to learn combat. I'm risk averse because it costs me profit. Every single time that my raft or my C2 Hercules or my Caterpillar or my Raylan is being stopped or sucked into combat, that's just taking money out of my pocket in a variety of different ways. Casualties, and by all accounts, you heard it today, there's going to be way more casualties. There's going to be way less escape. All this stuff is just really going to damage industrial gameplay, regardless how you want to spin it or shake it. Not being able to get away is not necessarily, I think in the short term, these guys are going to be really happy, but when they're out of anybody else to fight, with the last 7 PvP players, the last 7 really, really good air-to-air combat players, the last 7 bounty hunters or whoever it is left that just kind of, that really love that PvP combat, could you just shut off the lights on the server? That's kind of where we're headed. I think it's going to de-evolve, just like Letty said, into just a big Zerg. And guess what? That's what EVE is. And you can take or leave it. Apparently, these guys have left it because they're not playing it anymore. So, anyways, have a great night. I hope that you guys understand that. I understand that a lot of this is still in flux. We have a long way to go, and we'll see how it pans out, but I don't like it. I will see you all around the verse.